The difference between Etzem Yom and Teshuvah. Teshuvah affects kapara, but affects kapara only to the extent that the person does Teshuvah, whereas Yom Kippur affects a complete kapara because it touches that place where a priori there was never a blemish. Then we said outside, we're going to say Gimel outside. There are three different levels of our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu: mitzvah, tshuva, etzem. All three are expressed on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. There's the mitzvah of the day, they're a part of the 10 days of tshuva, and there's the etzem of the day. The mitzvah of the day of Rosh Hashanah, and this is explained actually, the as we said yesterday, there's a Rosh Hashanah sicha also in Chelek Daled that's very similar to this. Right? It's actually harder. This is an easier sicha to learn. Right? But talks about this, these three different levels relative to Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, there's mitzvah siyum, sheifa. There's the tshuva of the day. It's one of the 10 days of tshuva. And there's also etzem yom. Etzem yom is tamlichuni aleichem. Make me king upon you. How do we do that? And what's the way in which that's expressed? Interestingly enough, blowing the shofar. Right? Chazal say, make me king, remember me, ubameh, how? By shofar. And that's the source of the fact that we say the 9 brachas in the middle. Right? There are 3 brachas in the middle that makes 9 brachas for Shemon Esrei. You say Malchus, Zichronis, and Shofres. Right? Based on that Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, talking about how it is that we do what it is that there is to do on Rosh Hashanah. And what's the ikr to do on Rosh Hashanah? Tamlichuni aleichem. Make me king. To arouse in a Kadosh Baruch Hu the desire, ana emloich, I will be king. Where does that come from? The ability to do that comes from our essential connection to Kadosh Baruch Hu. So all 3 levels are expressed in Rosh Hashanah. So to Yom Kippur, there's the mitzvah of the day, which the Rebbe is going to discuss even more as we go through Ois Dalet. Mitzvah siyum, what's that? Vidui, fasting, mikra kodesh, also the fact that it's a Yom Tif. Right? There's the mitzvahs of the day. There's the tshuva of the day, obviously. It's a day of tshuva. And the Rambam would include the vidui in the tshuva because the Rambam talks about on a certain level, the Rambam, the ikr of tshuva is vidui. Well, it's obviously other aspects of tshuva. The Alter Rebbe says, as we said yesterday, the ikr of tshuva is azivas achet, leaving behind the wrongdoing. Not the Alter Rebbe says in Igeras tshuva. And the etzem of the day, etzem yom mitzuma sheyom mechaper, the essence of the day brings about kapara. So there's 3 levels of each day, and those 3 levels of our connection, and those 3 levels are all expressed in these 3 very special days. Okay, in Daled. Right, so that we just said outside Gimel. Right? But Davar Noisaf is on page 133. But Davar Noisaf Mishtavim Yom Kippurim v'Rosh Hashanah. And there's another way in which Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah are Mishtavim from the root Shaveh. They're equal. Kashem Shabarosh Hashanah, just like on Rosh Hashanah, Bechinas HaTshuvah, the quality of Tshuvah of the day. V'gam Bechinas HaTamlichuni, also the notion, the quality of make me king upon you, which is the expression of our essential connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Ba'im lidei bitui, and this we just talked about now outside, come to a state of expression al yedei mitzvahs Rosh Hashanah, through the mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? Shemitzvah seyem b'shofar. The ikar mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah is blowing the shofar. Even though we know these 2 levels, the level of etzem, which is expressed in tamlichuni, and the level of tshuva, they're both higher levels of our connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu than mitzvah. But interesting enough, what's the kli, what's the vessel that allows for the expression of these 2 levels? The mitzvah davka, shofar. Kachu, so too b'Yom Kippurim. Hagilui shel etzem and neshama, the revelation of etzem and neshama on Yom Kippur. Shal yedei itzuma shel yom, that comes as a result of the essence of the day. Living through the 26 hours of Yom Kippur is into the 26th full. There's disagreement as to how long we fast, but Lamaisa we start fasting a little before obviously quite a bit before sunset. Actually, we end up beginning the fast just logistically because you're going to have to get to shul, etc., etc. And after we finish the last meal, we dunk in the mikveh once more quickly. And then, here you don't have to run to shul, you just walk up the steps But most people then you jump in the car and go to shul, right? And get ready. And the last thing we do is vidui, right? When you get to shul before kol nidra, you're going to daven mincha in the afternoon. There'll be a meal. There'll be mincha, meal, mikveh, mincha, then another meal, the sort of the last meal, right? Our minhag after the last meal is also to jump in the mikveh quickly. Then also to say vidui right before, as soon as you get to shul, before you start kol nidra, the last thing we do is we say vidui. It's in the siddur. The vidui that we say at the end of every davening. I hope you've looked at the davening of Yom Kippur. Look, if you haven't looked at it, so look at it. So you'll know what's going to be. You won't be surprised by anything. Because when you finish Shemona Esrei in your own silent Shemona Esrei, at the end of Shemona Esrei, before you take 3 steps back, there's vidui. It's a very long addition, right at the end. So you'll get to see Shalom and think you're finished. Well, no, there's going to be another 5 pages of activity before you get to step 3 steps. So look it up, see what's there. Don't be surprised by anything, right? Right? Okay. Talked about it in Gemara, right? If you're in court, you probably prepare your brief before you walk into court, okay? So prepare your brief before you walk into shul. Know what it is that you're going to say on your behalf. So too, Yom Kippur, mizbate b'mitzvos Yom Kippur. The essence of the day is expressed through the actions of the day. Inui. Now, inui really means affliction, but what does inui mean? The inui is those 5 different physical actions that we refrain from: eating, drinking, right, wearing sandals, washing, marital relations, etc. So those are forbidden. Those are all isuri d'oraisa on Yom Kippur, right? Eating and drinking obviously are the most serious because they're the only 2 for whom the punishment is actually a very serious punishment called kares, right? But all those activities are forbidden. Why? Well, we extract ourselves from normal everyday behavior and put ourselves in a place where we can open up to something completely transcendent. Also, shvisas malacha, we don't do malacha on Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur is strict like Shabbos, not like Yom Tov, relative to malacha. Mikra Kodesh means we dress in nicer clothes, etc. Right? It's also one of the mitzvahs of Yom Tov. Also Shabbos, it's called Mikra Kodesh, which means we wear special clothes on Shabbos. Sometimes you see people wearing things on Shabbos that don't look particularly special. They're just, maybe the shirt's white, but it's probably a t-shirt. Okay, it's not honorable to the Shabbos to dress that way. Shabbos is a very, very special day. So we wear special clothes, nicer clothes. Afal Pikein Omeres a Gemara. Now this Afal Pikein I don't understand in the context of what we just said, because it's a continuation of what we just said. Now, it is an Afal Pikein relative to things we've said earlier about Rebbe's position. Afal Pikein means even though, nevertheless. Well, this is a continuation, so I don't understand the Afal Pikein, but that's okay. Shiur can still come. Shagam Rebbe, also Rebbe, Hasever, who holds, She'itzuma Sheyem Mechaper, and that a person doesn't have to do Teshuvah, even without Teshuvah, even Rebbe is made them, agrees, Sha'al Avedus Yom Kippurim Atzma, regarding Avedus of Yom Kippur itself, Einu Mechaper. It doesn't bring about Kapara. In other words, a person has to act in a sense. That's why I'm surprised this is an Afal Pikein, because this is in line with what we just said. How is it that I tap into Itzuma Shoyem? So Rebbe says I don't have to do Teshuvah, but I do have to do Yom Kippur. I have to live Yom Kippur. Otherwise, it's not Yom Kippur for me. I turned it into a non-Yom Kippur by acting in a way in Yom Kippur that's not Shayach to Yom Kippur. Okay, so then I've created a reality for myself. Right? So I obviously have to act in line with the day called Yom Kippur. And what does that mean? That means I don't eat and I don't drink and I don't do malacha, etc., because that's what one does on Yom Kippur. And if I do those actions, so then I've just denied the existence of Yom Kippur. So then, of course, the essence of the day isn't going to bring about the kapara that it could, because I'm denying the very existence of such a reality, and therefore I'm creating my own reality, a non-Yom Kippur reality. Because the reality of the etzem is revealed in the mitzvah. just like we said by Rosh Hashanah. How do you tap into the essence of Rosh Hashanah, arousing in a Kadosh Baruch Hu the desire, Ana Emleich, I will be king? Blow a shofar. It's only a mitzvah b'seder. And when we say only, we know what we mean in the context of this mimer. Okay, sicha. Okay, it's only. But it's the kli to reveal the essence. Okay, like every mitzvah. So to Yom Kippur. How do you reveal the essence of Yom Kippur? By doing the mitzvahs of Yom Kippur. Mishum mitzvah shel yom hu asher oise es I hatseim laveira. It's the essence of the day that makes the lack of fasting an aveira. Right? So I can't have my cake and eat it too, so to speak. They said, no, I don't have to fast. Okay, if you don't have to fast, then the Itzum Mashayim also doesn't exist. V'lochein ein shayich. It's not relevant. Shu atzma yichaper al kach. That it itself will bring about kapar for this. Now, it's very interesting. The Rebbe emphasizes this. What about other things? Unclear. Right? Davar zeh, and I might see, now the Rebbe is going to end up the mimer. And conclude this. Again, it's a mimer. It's based on a mimer and a sicha. This sicha, but it's a sicha here. Davar zeh anu meitzim gam ba'avedus, Avedus Kohen Gadol b'Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is a very, very unique day. Right? It's the one day of the year the Kohen Gadol goes into Kodesh HaKadoshim. He goes a couple of times. You don't know how many times? Open up your machzor, turn to the end of Musaf, and read what you're going to say on Yom Kippur, describing the day of the Kohen Gadol. That's part of Tfilas Musaf, not the silent Musaf, the Musaf of the repetition. So the essence of the day is expressed by what goes on, also the mitzvahs, the unique mitzvahs of the Kohen Gadol. Mi'ikare Avedas HaKohen Gadol b'yom zeh, the essential Aveda of the Kohen Gadol, Haisa Knisas and Knisas Soy LeKodesh Kadashim, was his entrance into the Holy of Holies. Only day of the year that anybody went in. In order to clean it and take care of it, they would suspend people from the top. Put them on a rope and suspend them from the top, and take them over to different places that might need a little scrubbing, a little cleaning, but no one walked in. You can't walk in there. Right? Al kanisa zu nemar b'pasuk. Relative to this entrance, it says in the pasuk in Vayikra, v'chol adam lo yeh ba'oil mayed. No person will be in the appointed tent. So what does that mean? A simple pshat. No one's allowed to be there except the Kohen Gadol. Omer al kach Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says, Talmud Yerushalmi, in Yuma, afilu oisin shekosav behen, even those about which it's written, udemus penei penei adam, those angels which are part of the Merkava, the supernal chariot, and in that chariot there are 4 different images. Right, and the highest image is Pnei Adam, the face of people. There's Pnei Arya, but the face of people, the highest angels, even those angels that are on the highest level, and their face is like the face of a person. Shezen Namar Odes Chayas HaKodesh. This is referring to that level of Malachim called Chayas HaKodesh, or Malachim Nailim B'Yeser. So the highest level of Malachim. There's 10 basic levels of Malachim. That's the highest. That's why after you say Kadosh, 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 so then you ask the Fani V'chayas HaKodesh, Ayemekem Kvede, where is he? They ask the highest levels of angels, say davening every day. Say it in, where is this place of his covered? Where is he? Baruch Kved Hashem Min Kevei. Good answer. You got it? You got their answer? Right? You understood what they said? Okay. Right? But who are we asking? We're asking the highest HaKodesh. Why? Well, that's the highest level of angel. If anybody's going to know, they're going to know. Right? It's amazing stuff in that book we say every day and don't pay any attention to. There's a lot of amazing stuff. Not that we don't pay any attention, but HaMalachim Nailim B'Yeseh. Gam Heim, even they, Lo Yachlo Limatza B'Kedesh HaKadoshim, cannot be found in Kedesh HaKadoshim. Only one thing, with the Eibishter. a Yid. The Yid representing all of the Yidden, the Kohen Gadol. Kloimar, Shaveda Sheyom Kippurim, Megala es his achdus shel bnei Yisrael. The Avodah of Yom Kippur reveals the unity of the Jewish people. Share Kohen Gadol haya shaliach shel klal Yisrael. The Kohen Gadol is the shaliach of all of us. Ima Kadosh Baruch Hu, with the Eibishter. Yisrael u'malkal beluchudohi. Yisrael and the king alone. Rak HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'nei Yisrael levad. Yom Kippur, when the Kohen Gadol is in Yom Kippur, is in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it represents a level of reality where only two things exist. Not only it represents, it is a level of reality where only two things exist: the Eibishter and the Yid, and the Shamas. Yisei Mizu. Knisasei shel Kohen Gadol l'Kodesh HaKadoshim ma'aseh gam b'bayis sheni. Something very fascinating. The Kohen Gadol also went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim in Bayis Sheni, and in Bayis Sheni was also a place that no one else could go, and it was Dafka Bayis Sheni that they had to pull everybody out year after year after year, not Bayis Rishon, right? So now, what was the difference between the Kodesh HaKadoshim, Bayis Rishon, and Bayis Sheni? There was no the Kodesh HaKadoshim was an empty room in Bayis Sheni. There was no Aron. It was gone, taken away in Bayis Rishon, and we didn't get it back. Right? There was no Aron HaKodesh. What does the Aron HaKodesh represent? Interesting enough, what's in there? The Luchos, Torah. So the Rebbe is about to say something actually absolutely fascinating. The entrance of the Kohen Gadol into the Kodesh HaKadoshim and Bayis Sheni represents that level of our connection to the Eibishter that is beyond Torah. There's no Torah in there. The Aaron's not there. The Yid still. Not Chas v'Shalom that the Yid in Eilam Hazeh can do anything without Torah. That's what we just said. You can't do Yom Kippur without Hilchos Yom Kippur. You can't do Yom Kippur without Shulchan Aruch. There's no such thing as Yom Kippur without Shulchan Aruch. You've made it non-Yom Kippur. But Yom Kippur is higher than Shulchan Aruch. Right? There's an aspect of Yom Kippur that transcends Shulchan Aruch, that transcends mitzvahs. But you can't do it without that. Right? We're always living that dichotomy. On one hand, our relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu transcends the Torah. On the other hand, we don't have a relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu without the Torah. Why? Well, because the way we reveal that relationship down here is through the Torah. So we want to reveal that relationship, express it. Bayis Sheni was an empty room. Imagine the surprise of the Romans when they walked into that room. Right? Seriously, think about it. These heathens, what do they know? They're just into idols and getchkas, and I mean, it's all Gashmius. The Romans, the Greeks were into Gashmius, but at least had a little seichel. The Romans were into Gashmius with no seichel, right? They were just Prussian heathens. Okay. So the Romans come and destroy the Beis Hamikdash. This unbelievably powerful people have been subjugated, and the people who for the last 1,000 years have been at the center of the history of everything going on in a very, we still are, right? We're still the headlines every day. But then it was, we had this unbelievable, now also seem to have this unbelievably powerful little country that is taking care of all the things that these big, huge Europeans who are so important should have taken care of a long time ago. But, okay, and they hate us for it. But this incredibly powerful country is being brought to its knees. And what's their kayach? Well, this house on the hill, that's the kayach. It's all coming from there. They know that, right? So they go and destroy it. They walk in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Empty room. Nothing there. Which says everything about Yiddishkeit, right? There's nothing there. There's nothing in Gashmi. It's just four walls. What must they have thought if they think? I'm not sure they think, but there must have been someone there who thought about something. That could be. They might have, put it all away. That's also true. They might have thought that. We didn't do that with the first destruction. Right? Although there actually are Medrashim say we did. It's actually all underneath. Right? But the Aron is underneath the Beis Hamikdash, hidden down there. And Baruch Hashem, with all their excavations, the people who are in charge of that piece of land for some strange reason, All the excavations they're doing to try to destroy any Jewish remnant on Har HaBayis, so they haven't reached wherever those things are hidden because they haven't found them. Found a lot of other stuff, and they throw it away. So there shouldn't be, the truth should not be known because the most dangerous thing for that group of people is the truth. So the Kohen Gadol enters into Kodesh HaKodashim Gam B'Bayis Sheni. Va'az Kfar haya choser b'Aron HaKodesh. It's lacking the Aron HaKodesh. Mikach muvan, from here it's understood. Sha'is kenisa l'makam v'darga kazu, that this is an entrance into a place and into a level of reality like this, hanailis mina Torah, higher than the Torah itself. Afilu Torah kafi shehi medes, even the highest expression of Torah. And what's the highest expression of Torah? The luchos. The Torah that's not written as ink on a cloth, where the letters and the parchment are two separate things, but a Torah that's engraved in stone, where the letters and the stone are one and the same, which represent, meaning that they're not separate things. So which represents the idea of the oneness of the Torah with us and with the world, the ability of the Torah to elevate the world. Even that Torah, the highest level of Torah, the letters of engraving, luchos, even the luchos, because that wasn't there. Right? There were two things there. There was a Sefer Torah, and there were also the luchos. Machlekes, where the luchos were, right? Rashi, when was it? This week, last week. Rashi, whether Rashi brings the machlekes, whether the luchos were in the Aron, fit snugly in the corner. That's how, one of the reasons the Rebbe points out that the luchos obviously were not round, right? The luchos that most people do, they look like that. Well, they didn't look like that. They were square because they fit according. Even the position that says they didn't go in the box doesn't say they couldn't go in the box because they weren't square, right? They fit snugly in the box. The top of the luchos with the top of the box straight across. So that picture that's in many shuls is a funny picture. I don't know where it came from. Or that picture of Moshe Rabbeinu holding them. I don't know. That was must have been it wasn't an iPhone camera, because that would have gotten a better picture, right? The Android cameras aren't as good, so maybe they took the picture of Moshe holding the tablets with the round top with an Android camera, so it didn't come out so clear. I don't know. Luchos were square. So they fit. They were either on a shelf outside the Aron, or they were snugly fit into the Aron. Fascinating Gemara explaining the size of the Aron and how they fit and how big was the Sefer Torah, and very interesting how everything fit snugly. Hahevdel, the difference between Teshuvah she'al yedei Torah, the difference between Teshuvah al yedei Torah, meaning the Teshuvah that's a mitzvah in the Torah, LeTeshuvah shelamayla mi'Torah, the Teshuvah that is tapping into a place beyond Torah, meaning tapping into your etzem, your essential connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. HaTeshuvah shal yedei Torah, the Teshuvah that's through Torah. He bechinas gilui levad, is a level of very powerful godly revelation. That's what the Torah is, a revelation of God. So even though Teshuvah is beyond Torah, which we've talked about, right? Teshuvah is that which allows us to fix a relationship, the relationship based on Torah and mitzvahs, so that relationship might have been broken, but Teshuvah is more powerful and allows us to mend that relationship. Okay, so so to speak, the relationship based on mitzvahs is broken, but there's still Teshuvah. It's a higher level. Okay, we've talked about that a number of times here and in other places. So even though mitzad echad Teshuvah is higher than Torah, but there's a mitzvah of Teshuvah in the Torah. Shalochein ma'ilo Teshuvah, therefore Teshuvah is beneficial. Gam al pagamim, also relative to the blemishes that are brought about shel taryag mitzvahs Torah, by virtue of improper action within the context of the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah, meaning either the person did something that the Torah commands us not to do, or didn't do something that the Torah commands us to do. Kailo mitzvahs Talmud Torah, including even the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, which is all about Torah, but it's still a mitzvah. It's one of the Taryag mitzvahs. Nevertheless, still that level of tshuva is bebechinas gilui. What does that mean? What does the Rebbe mean? So first of all, the Rebbe is juxtaposing two states of reality: revealed reality and essential reality. That's what the Rebbe wants to do, right? Revealed reality, as powerful as it is still not ultimately essence, and revealed reality, by definition, is limited, right? Even if it's limited by being infinite, okay, so it's limited in its infinity because it can't express itself in any other form. Here the Rebbe is just talking about our tshuva al pi Torah, which is a mitzvah and therefore limited to the extent that there's certain things that have to be done, and we do that, but it's limited by virtue of my ability to do that, the changes I bring about in myself. There's that action aspect of tshuva, right? Tshuva, the Rebbe is going to talk about a deeper level of tshuva, but tshuva is a return to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so that return has halachic parameters. So, and that's what the Rebbe is talking about in tshuva al yedei Torah. The tshuva that Torah demands is remorse, azivas achet, to stop doing it, and to make a positive resolution relative to the future that I won't do it again. Right? Now, even if I don't live up to that, that doesn't mean that when I said that, it wasn't a genuine statement. Right? I said that genuinely. Right? I might be that and hopefully I said it in a state of clarity. Okay, so I really meant that. I don't want to return to this. I might return to it. But that when I said that, I really did not want to and was going to do my best not to. Right? So it's not a lie. Right? Even though there's an idea that's brought in all this farm about tshuva that every year, and in Bechlal the question is asked, why are we klap al chet on the same averas every year? Right? I mean, I said this last year, so I understand. Why am I saying it again? I didn't mean it, right? No, I meant it. So why am I doing it again? Oh, because in the interim I did the avera. How does it all work? So there's an idea called tshuva al ha-tshuva. That the most basic understanding of the fact that we do this every year is that every year we reach a higher level of appreciation of who we are, and what life is all about. And so our appreciation of what it means to disconnect from a Kadosh Baruch Hu is a little deeper. And so our tshuva, our al-chet, is a little deeper. So last year I said it one way. This year, hopefully, I appreciate it in a slightly more mature way. Right? Beautiful idea, and that's true because we grow in life, right? You are not going to be the same. You in the I'm talking to everybody but Izzy. I'm sorry, Izzy. Right? It's just the way it is, Once you turn a certain color, you have to be left out of certain conversations, right? Everybody, no, you can listen because you can remember. You can remember when you thought this, right? Most people at a certain age, I'm very loosely defining it between 15 and 25, right? But it's probably closer, 18 to 22. Whatever. And most people at a certain age relate to the fact that, the growth is going to be something that will just sort of happen by virtue of the fact that they're going to continue getting older, and it might be that I don't have, to use the vernacular, I don't exactly have it together now, but by the time I'm 30, I probably will. And then they hit 30 and realize they don't, so they figure it must be 35. At some point, they come to the realization that if I don't do it, it's not going to happen. Okay, and what's interesting is, again, everybody, I'm talking about the last 15 years of our life. Now, all of us have changed a lot in the last 15 years of our life, but the majority of the people in this room, the changes in your life in the last 15 years are absolutely astounding, right? Where were you 15 years ago? How old were you? What were you doing? You were like this little squirt running around, right? I mean, you were 10, you were 8, I don't know everybody's age, but you were, right? Some of you might have been 6, I don't know. 15. What? You were 15. Okay. Also a squirt, right? 15 is an age where you think you know everything, right? That's what Mark Twain said, right? At 15, I thought my father was a real jerk. When I was 20, I was amazed at how much the old man had learned in 5 years, right? Okay, so 15-year-olds are they're certainly the most obnoxious roommates you'll ever have in your life. Your 15-year-old children will be the worst roommates you have ever had, right? Okay. Not all of them, but generally, it's a difficult time, and it's a reasonable time. It's time when a kid has to start moving away from his parents in terms of being an independent human, and that isn't always a sort of seamless transition. It can often be a very, very tumultuous transition, but he has to become an independent adult. Now I think it's not 15, now I think it's 45, but there is a time when a child has to leave a parent behind and say, I am an independent adult and I make my own decisions. I'll tell my parent what my decision is, but I'm making it, right? I might even ask them for advice, but I'm making it. That's a very, very important place to be in life, which is, a lot of people have a real hard time with that. You're going to come back for another year in yeshiva? I'll ask my parents. No, don't ask your parents. Decide and tell your parents this is the decision you've made. Kibbut Avein. Halacha and Shulchan Aruch. If you want to learn Torah and your father says, no, you have to go learn Torah in that yeshiva, and you want to learn in this yeshiva, you go where you want, not where he wants. So don't pull the Kibbut Avein card on that one, right? Whose decision is it? Yours. It's your life. There's only one person living your life, not your parents, you. They hopefully did a good enough job in the years they had to turn out an independent person who can make their own decisions. And if they don't think they did, then all they're saying is, I failed as a parent. Right? If they don't think that you can make your independent decisions at a certain point in life, you can, and you have to. But okay, so we might think that at a certain point we stop changing. We've gone through unbelievable change over a certain period of time, and then it sort of slows down. Well, it slows down in terms of the obvious expressions of it, because a 6-year-old and a 21-year-old are two completely different creatures. But in terms of growth, it doesn't really slow down. You're constantly growing and changing and learning things. Okay, but it's on there's more stuff below that you're adding it to, so it doesn't look as obvious. That's true, but all sorts of things happen in life that create new understandings and deeper appreciation. So that's Teshuvah la Teshuvah. Every year you've grown a little, hopefully. And you come to a greater appreciation of what it means to have a relationship with the Rebbe. So you do tshuva from that new point of view. Okay. Rav Nachman of Breslev has a unique Breslev. This is so Breslev, a unique Breslev expression of it. What's tshuva la tshuva? Well, I have to do tshuva for the tshuva I did last year. Why? Because I was lying to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I guess it's not nice to lie to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Al chet, al chet, al chet. Oh, you don't mean any of it, you low life. Al chet, al chet, al chet, al chet. Hashem begadnu gezalnu tibaynu doifiach. You lied to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Now I have to do tshuva for lying to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's Rav Nachman. Which is so Breslev, right? Which means I'm not going to be depressed, which means I now have to work on being besimcha. So that's good, because that's the avodah, right? To be besimcha. But first I have to depress you. So then I'll be besimcha. But that's also true. I mean, right? It's Nachman's real. Nachman's not, he's the real thing. So there's the level of tshuva that we do al pi Torah. And that is very clearly defined what has to be done. And then there's a level of tshuva which the Rebbe is about to discuss, where we're tapping into our etzem. There's that level of tshuva. All right, so the Rebbe says, last line on page 133, it's a level of revealed reality, meaning it's a level of defined revealed reality, not etzem. Ve'ilu, however, even though it's l'mayla min Torah, he's achdus. Wait, what happened? I'm just trying to figure out where we are. I'm sorry. Ve'ilu hatshuva shelamayla min Torah, the tshuva that's beyond Torah, the second level of tshuva, not the tshuva that's defined by Torah, which itself we said is higher than Torah, right? But it's still defined by Torah. I mean, what we do is defined by Torah. You want to know how to do tshuva? Look up in the Rambam, look in Shulchan Aruch, look in the Alter Rebbe Zegeres Tshuva. It'll define specific actions that are necessary to do to fulfill that commandment of V'shavta Adonai Elokecha. There's a commandment in the Torah to do tshuva. And it's a machlokes exactly what that commandment is. According to the Rambam, it seems that the basic expression of that commandment is vidui, confession. There's a machlokes in explaining the Rambam Beseder, but that seems to be basic. Right? The Alter Rebbe says explicitly, aziva sechet, leaving behind the wrongdoing. That's the ikar of tshuva. Okay, so there's different opinions in Rishonim and Achronim as to how to define the mitzvah of Teshuvah, but it's a mitzvah in the Torah. Then there's a level of Teshuvah l'mayla min Torah. What's that? He's achdus imatzmusi yisbarach l'mayla migilu. It's the unity with the essence of Hashem, l'mayla migilu, beyond revealed reality. Ukeshem shebizman abayis, and just like in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, neitzrais kashrus ha'atzmis, was brought about this essential connection shebein neshamis Yisrael, nishmas Yisrael, the neshamas of the Jewish people, the bein HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu al Yedei, by virtue of a kenisa shel HaKohen Gadol, a Kedesh HaKadoshim b'Yom Kippurim, the entrance of the Kohen Gadol into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur. So how do we do it? Kach gamata, so too now, mizbate inyan zeh, it's expressed this essential connection, but tefillas Yom Kippur, on our tefillas, because that's what we do. We daven all day. That's all we do. We don't eat. We just daven. Shechein tefillah hi b'makam avedus hakarbanos. Tefillah is in the place of the karbanos that the Kohen Gadol was busy doing on the day. And now the Rebbe explains something very, very beautiful and very, very amazing that you've probably heard, but it's nice to see again because beautiful ideas. There's a view you might have looked at once. Well, you go and look at it again because it's still beautiful, even though you saw it once. Yom Kippurim hu Yom Yochid b'Shana. Yom Kippur is the only day of the year. Even though there are positions in halacha that on fast days you daven also a fifth davening, but l'maisa tachlis la'halacha we only daven 5 times one day a year. Yom Kippur. Usually we daven 3 times a day. Special days we daven 4. One day a year we daven 5. What does that all represent? So let's see. It's the Yom Yachid b'Shana shechayovim lispal b'chamesh tefillos. It's the only day of the year where we are obligated to daven 5 times. Mariv, Shachris, Musaf, Mincha, Ne'ilah. And what do those correspond to? V'chamesh tefillos hem keneged chamesh madrega sheb'neshama. These 5 tefillos correspond to the 5 different levels of the soul. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, those 3 different levels of the soul that are clothed in the body, and power, Nefesh, action, Ruach, emotions, Neshama, intellect. Chaya, the level of Makif, of super conscious Neshama, but it's connected to our conscious reality. That's the source of our Ratzon, will, and Yechida, essence. Right? Now, interesting enough, everyday activity, right? How many times do we daven? 3. Because what's happening in everyday life? Never true of neshama. Just, life. The neshama in Eilam Hazeh, dealing with Eilam Hazeh, getting up in the morning, davening chakras, going to work, getting on a bus, right? Train, plane, however you get to work, helicopter, however you get to work, right? Okay. Everyday life. What aspects of the neshama are expressed in that in the most revealed way? Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, those 3 levels of the soul that are clothed in the physical body, empower the physical body. So we daven 3 times a day corresponding to those 3 levels of soul. Special days, Shabbos, Yom Tov, what do we say? You get what? What do you talk about on Shabbos? Why do you smell incense, Meitzi Shabbos? What left you when you're sad? In the Neshama Yisera, an extra soul. What does it mean extra soul? I have an extra soul. I have an extra soul in the cupboard that's like shows up every now and then I put it back in the cupboard. No, it's an extra level of your soul that's revealed on Shabbos. Chaya shebenefesh is revealed on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Right?
Is that why we say a second mark on top of Shabbos?
No, that's there are people who say an Baruch Hu at the end of Marav every night for the people who showed up late and didn't hear the Baruch Hu in the beginning. We don't, right? Though you go to any Lubavitch shul anywhere in the world, right? They'll daven Marav, and someone who's not a Lubavitch shul will be very makbid to have to say Baruch Hu at the end. I don't know why. It happens everywhere. So there's the Baruch Hu at the end that everybody says for those people. Why we say at Shabbos, I remember seeing it somewhere, and I don't remember exactly what the reason is, but on Shabbos, it's the only night we say it. We say it Dafka on Shabbos. We don't say it on Yom Tov. Right? Say it on Shabbos. Don't know why. Say an extra Baruch Hu at the end. We don't on Yom Tov. Rosh Hashanah, we didn't say one, right? We didn't say an extra baruch yet. Shabbos, it's part of the, right? After Kaddish, we say extra kapitel and another half Kaddish and a baruch hu. Interesting question as to why. I'm not sure. I remember seeing somewhere, but I don't remember. Right? But it's not in the Neshama Yisrael because, at least simple shot, because on Yontif we don't say it. On those days we daven 4 times because there's an extra level of our sensitivity to godliness that has been revealed, and so we can express that by davening a 4th time. Right? Now that corresponds also to the korbanos we brought in the Beis Hamikdash, which also represented the same thing. Okay. Yom Kippur, what's revealed? What did we just learn is revealed on Yom Kippur? Etzem and Neshama. Therefore, how many times do we daven? There's a 5th daven. Corresponds to the 5th level of the soul. Right? Because that's what's revealed on Yom Kippur. Even more, interestingly enough, than Rosh Hashanah, because based on everything we've learned, you might say, well, why don't we daven a 5th davening on Rosh Hashanah also? Which is an interesting question. Right? But we don't. Right? Now, one of the answers might very well be that that's expressed through shofar. Right? That's the 5th level of davening. Right? No words, just kol dema madaka, just this deep voice, right? Kol panima, an inner voice, right? But tachlis on Yom Rosh Hashanah we don't daven a 5th, but on Yom Kippur we do. But the whole avodah on Yom Kippur is davening. That's what we're doing. It's the only thing we're doing. Right? Hatfila chamishis. The 5th tefillah, shemispailim rak b'Yom Kippurim, that we only daven on Yom Kippur, tefillas ne'ilah, uba mizgales, and through that davening, what's revealed, bechinas ha'yachida shebeneshama, the 5th level of the soul, kefishi mochedes im HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as it is unified and united and one with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'sham ein makim l'shum davar, and there is no place for anything, milvad, except HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'nei Yisrael. On that level of reality, what exists? The level of Etzem and Neshama. We go up to that place. What's in existence in that place? 2 things. The Eibishter and Nishmas Yisrael. There isn't even yet, so to speak, Torah. Hasn't come into existence yet, so to speak. There's 2 things that exist up there. We're talking, in Atzmos, you can't talk about time, right? But it's the only way you and I can differentiate between things. So we use that tool to help us understand things, even though obviously up there's no time. Right? We have time to explain this because we'll still finish the sicha. Rashi on the first pasuk in Chumash, Bereishis Barla Elokim Es Shemaim V'Ha'aretz, says Beis Reishis. There's 2 things that are Reishis, that are first. Nishmas Yisrael V'Oraisa. Yisrael V'Oraisa. Yisrael, the neshamas of the Jewish people, and Torah. And that's quoted in Bereishis Rabbah. And then it brings psukim showing that those 2 things are called Reishis. Reishis Chochma, we're also called Reishis. Okay. That's Bereishis Rabbah. In Tana de Belial, a medrash written by Eliyahu Hanavi, right, that is on the shelf somewhere around here, I hope. Not here, but I don't know what books we have exactly. It could be better. But Tana de Belial, which is a very, Rashi quotes the medrash on Torah all the time. In Tana de Belial, Eliyahu Hanavi asks, and which of those is first? It says there's 2 things that exist before the world. Meaning that it exists up there in Atzmos before anything else. And that even means before any level of godly light. Just these 2 things. Which of those is first? So Eliyahu says a very interesting, he says, Nidmeli, it appears to me, he says. It's an interesting lashon, but it's Eliyahu Hanavi. So we sort of take his appears to me seriously. Yisrael. Why? Because the Torah says, Daber al b'nei Yisrael. For whom was the Torah written? They had to be there. Because it says, speak to them. The Torah is speaking to us, so it must be, we were there, and the Torah came and started speaking to us. That's what it says in Tana B'Eliyahu. What difference does it make? It makes a huge difference. And it's everything we've learned in this mind. If Torah is first and then Yisrael up there, then what is the most important thing in the eyes of the Eibishter? Torah. What's Am Yisrael? Am Yisrael is this vehicle to express what the Eibishter really wants, which is Torah. The dearest thing in the eyes of the Eibishter is Torah. There's this people who exist in order to express that Torah down here in Olam Hazeh. They exist up there, but they ultimately come down here to just like the Torah comes down here, to express that Torah. So what if there's a Jew who doesn't express the Torah? So he's a brachal of a Torah. Just a waste of time. Because the whole purpose of the Jew is to express the Torah, because the dearest thing in the Abish's eyes is the Torah. And if the Jew's not doing that, so then nothing to talk about. That's not true. What is true? What's the dearest thing in the eyes of the Abishter? The Yid. What's the Torah? Well, what's the Torah? It's also the etzem of the Abishter. But that being said, it's the etzem of the Abishter that is in it. That they both come down into Olam Hazeh. Now, down here, you and I listen to the Torah. We don't tell the Torah what to do. It tells us what to do. Okay, that's true. But what's the Torah? The Torah is that which allows, and this is what we've been seeing in this Mayanot, what allows you and I to express our essential connection down here. What is the kli to allow us to do that? Torah and mitzvahs. Without Torah and mitzvahs, I'm not expressing it. But is that essential connection there? Yes. Is that the dearest thing in the eyes of the Eibishter? Yes. So what about a Jew who doesn't keep Torah and mitzvahs down here? He's still the dearest thing in the eyes of the Eibishter. He's just blowing it. He's missing an opportunity that's an unbelievable opportunity to express who he really is down here. So he's expressing it in some other way, and he gets all for tumult and ends up thinking that climate change is more important than Shabbos. But he's into something. He's got to be into something.
Hey, Shabbos is really good for your carbon footprint.
Absolutely. No, it's no, what's his? Oh gosh, I can't remember. He was a shaliach here. He said, "I know him so well. His first name, his last name is Gray. His first name, anyway, it doesn't matter. He's the shaliach in Dartmouth. So there was some girl came to his Pesach Seder and made a very, very public statement that everybody should know that she's going to take home all the plastic dishes that were used at the Seder. There's like 100-something kids at the Seder. Take them all home and wash them because she doesn't want to waste the plastic. Okay, that's nice. But it was a very clear statement that everybody had to know. Okay, fine. There's a girl he was very close to. So at some point he was sitting and schmoozing with her and he said, exactly what you said. My carbon footprint is less than yours. Oh, Rabbi, don't be ridiculous. I mean, her whole essence of her being is her carbon footprint and how little it is. Well, one day a week, I don't use any electricity. I don't use my phone. I don't drive my car. I don't one day a week, I have no. I mean, we do have an imprint because we leave lights on, right? But I mean, no, of course we do. But it is obviously much less, right? There's no question. It's much less than your average person, right? So my carbon footprint is much smaller than yours. How can that be? So he explains. So she says, what? No phone, no car, no. But that's so inconvenient. Oh, well, carbon footprint, who cares? That's inconvenient. I don't want to be inconvenienced by carbon footprint. I want to feel good about myself because of my carbon footprint or lack thereof. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean you and I should all be busy just spreading schmutz into the air. It's the Eibishter's world, and we should take care of it. That's the Eibishter's river. Don't spew all that horrible stuff in it. Figure out how to build the factory next to the river and clean the stuff up before you throw it in the river, which we've basically figured out how to do, right? It took a while until people had that consciousness, but that was a long time ago. It was in the 60s that all came into being, and Baruch Hashem. We can make cars that don't pollute like the cars that used to, right? You can now see LA from the mountains between LA and the valley. Right? When I grew up, you couldn't see LA. Right? Landing in LA, you pulled into, remember landing in LA in the 60s? Pea soup. Just this brown haze above the whole, now LA is this valley that's surrounded by mountains. There's the ocean pushing everything in and the mountains holding it all in. So it was the worst pollution in America. It was pea soup. It was disgusting. You couldn't see the city below it. On the side, it's never cloudy.
I grew up in Pittsburgh. You couldn't hang anything outside.
Oh, Pittsburgh. Yeah, I had an aunt who grew up in Pittsburgh and never ever went back when she left.
Yeah, you literally could not hang.
It would get covered with soot.
Yeah, exactly.
The story is, I don't know whether it's true, but the story is that my parents, after they got married in 1946, my grandfather gave my father a car as a wedding present. Now, 1946, that's a crazy thing. I mean, like, who had a car? Right? My father had a car. So the two of them, my parents, went on a trip after their wedding. They went on a trip out west. Now, the idea was also to look at different places where my father was considering starting to work. So one of the places was a hospital in Chicago, 1946. So my mother is this new bride, new clothes, right? And they pull into Chicago, and my father pulls up. He didn't have a cell phone. The car took so much money they couldn't afford a cell phone. So he went up to a phone booth, made sure Superman wasn't in it, and then went into the phone booth and called the hospital. While he was in the phone booth, my mother was standing outside under the elevated train in Chicago. A train goes by. All this black soot fell all over my mother, all over her brand new clothes, her face, her hands. She's covered with this like soot. So my father comes out, says we have a meeting at 1 o'clock. So she says, do we have to live here? I said, what's wrong? He said, well, look at me. Look what, this is disgusting. So he said, no, we have to live here. Went back into the phone booth, called the guy and said, I'm sorry, I'm not making the appointment. And they drove west. They did not stay in Chicago. Right? That was Chicago in the 40s. It was just unbelievable, right? So we figured that out, right? Baruch Hashem, we've done much better. Chicago's not like that at all anymore. Right? LA isn't like that. You can land in LA and see the city. Right? Mexico City's still like that, but the rest of the world isn't. Okay. Baruch Hashem. They say China's like that. I don't know. Never been there. Ask Rabbi Levinger. He's been there. Okay. Let's finish the sicha. Okay. So it's God's world, and we should take care of it. But the reason we're here is to reveal Elokus and Elam Hazim. And we're this incredible neshama that is so powerfully connected to the Eibishter and the dearest thing in the eyes of the Eibishter. So if there's a Yiddu for whatever reason isn't keeping the Torah, as that's an unfortunate reality that is simply missing an opportunity to do something amazing. And that's why if we run into that Jew, we try to help them realize what's really going on. Right? Those of you who used to be around here knew we had a beautiful student named Zach Kramer. Okay, so I met a guy in Sinai Scholars named Zach Kramer this summer, and I told him, look, you have to come to Mayanot because we had this student named Zach Kramer who was just the coolest guy, and he just left, and we can't have a yeshiva without Zach Kramer, so you have to come to Mayanot. So he's looking at me, what do you tell you? Like, look, you just have to come. I mean, Zach, you don't have any choice. You have to. Today I got a WhatsApp this morning, getting off the bus. I looked in my phone as I was walking from the bus to yeshiva, and there was at first I saw Zach Kramer. I thought it was Zachariah who was writing. And the words that you see, a lot has happened in the. So I'm like worried, what's going on? Zach's in 770, like what happened in 770 over Rosh Hashanah, I mean, anything can happen in 770, right? So no, it's not that Zach Kramer, it's the other Zach Kramer. A lot has happened last month. I want to come to Mayanot in the winter. Can we make it happen? Zach Kramer's coming back, guys. We're going to get Zach Kramer back. Right? God, let's finish up here. What? That's going to be no, there's no way that this guy can be an amazing guy, and he has exactly the same etzem in the Shema like our beloved Zach, but there's no way that etzem is going to be shining as brightly as Zach's was, as our Zacharias was when he left. I've had a lot of students over the years, and there's always a few who are just, he was just a special neshama, that guy. I mean, it was unbelievable. I think anybody in here not love the guy. I mean, it was just unbelievable, right? It's like Amnon, it was just unbelievable.
Oh, that was my roommate.
Oh, yeah? Oh, something in that room, guys. Move into that room. No, he was. He's such a special guy. He's just such a beautiful person. And everybody's a beautiful person, but we have to reveal it. V'sham ein makom sorry. Tfilas nilo u'ba'mis galus b'chinas yichidish b'nefesh. 5 lines up. Kefi she muchedes im HaKadosh Baruch Hu as it's united with the Eibishter. V'sham there ain't shum makom. Ein makom l'shum davar. There's nothing other milvad HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'nei Yisrael. Us and the Eibishter. Even not even the Torah. V'zeu perush shel ni'ilo. And this is what we talked about yesterday, but now we'll see it inside. So you can believe it, because you didn't hear it from me, you heard it from the Rebbe. V'zeu perush shel ni'ilo. Noyelim eskol hasharim. We're locking all the gates. What does that mean? It's not we're getting locked out. We're getting locked in. Ve'ein matirin likones la'af echad. We're not letting anybody in. Sham nimsoim rak b'nei Yisrael im atzmus yizbarach. Wow. What's Ne'ilah? You're davening Ne'ilah Thursday afternoon, 5:30-ish, 6 o'clock-ish. You're a little tired. You haven't eaten for a while. You've been davening all day. They're starting again. Okay, just remember, wait a minute. What's happening right now? That's why we don't even say Al-Chet during the Elah. Right? We say Hashem, we don't say Al-Chet. Right? Why? We say Hashem because it's an essential part of the davening of all 5 davenings. But we don't say the Al-Chet in the Elah because it's beyond the Chet. The place we're in right there is we're one with the Eibishter. Ne'ilah is when the Yidden and the Eibishter are one, alone, in Kadosh HaKadoshim, just us and him, and we're just hanging out. That's the ultimate place of Yom Kippur. Now the Rebbe says, and even though this quality, this reality is misgalis, is revealed be'ikr, essentially betfilas ne'ilah. It's happening in the Elah. Right, and the Rebbe says, look in footnote 23, v'lachein ikar kaparahu b'seif hayom. Therefore, the essential cleansing is at the end of the day, after our Aveda, and then skip down to the last line because it's just marmakamis between that. Ubefrat, particularly be'itim miyuchodim, kamei b'tkiyah shefer, ne'ilu the Yom Kippur, who talks about the special times that exist during the year when we're connected to the Eibishter, and that's Tkiyah Shefer and Rosh Hashanah and the Elah and Yom Kippur. As amazing as Yom Kippur is, there's no question it comes to this culmination in the Elah. Our minhag is it's the only time that you say la'ela la'ela in Kaddish. You might have noticed if you davened anywhere outside of Mayanot that everybody adds the li'ela li'ela. You add another la'ela, meaning lofty and lofty, right? The whole 10 days are times of tremendous loftiness. Our minhag is only to add it in the Elah. The only time in Kaddish where we say la'ela la'ela is in the Elah, right? And the Kaddish before in the Elah, wow, li'elo, li'elo. Wow, where we are then. The essential revelation of his ne'ilah, in general, this level exists in a general way. Gam b'chol yamama. In all, yamama means 24-hour day as opposed to day night. The 24-hour day, and Yom Kippur were generally makbid. When the Rebbeim talk about Yom Kippur, they talk about the 26 hours of Yom Kippur, Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, the gematria of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. We fast at least into the 26th hour. I mentioned that once before, right? B'chol yama shel Yom Kippurim. Kefi aloshen yom, it's a day. The whole day is a day. Shenischaya b'chamesh tefillos. The whole day is defined by the fact that there's 5 tefillos that day. Shahayom kula. The whole day, mechuyev b'chamesh tefillos. Kleimar, av shekol chelik zman shel hayom, that even though every piece of time of the day, mechuyev is obligated b'tefillah prati shel in its own particular tefillah, be'erev tefillas arev, and arvis, and night, smarev, b'beker shachris, uchiyitzbez, b'beker shachris, and then musaf. Im kol zeh, nevertheless, the whole day, hu yom shenischayev b'chamesh tefillas, even at night, kol nidra, still, it's ultimately the day of the revelation of the 5th level of soul. That's going to come into the most powerful expression in the Elah, but it's already revealed as we start kol nidra. Yom shenischayev b'chamesh tefillas, ki b'chlolas, hu yom shemeir b'chamesh. Because in general, it's a day where it shines the level of chamesh. What's that? Bechinas yechida. That's Yom Kippur. Now you see the whole day. So the Rebbe would daven with the talus on his head, but you could see the Rebbe's face. In the Elah, the Rebbe pulled the talus over his face. No one saw the Rebbe's face during the Elah. What was going on under there? Who knows? And then the Rebbe would move the talus back, singing Napoleon's March, which will be in the middle of the Kaddish at the end, and you'll know when that's happening. In the middle of Kaddish, we start singing, we dance, blow the shofar, finish Kaddish, and then daven one of the fastest marvs of the year. Hopefully not. I always try to get someone up there who's not going to daven so fast because, we can wait another 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes. It's just a little slow. Anyway, you should have a chesima, gmar chesima teva, a good year. This is it. I mean, this is the yeshiva holiday begins today. I guess there's night seder. No, is there night seder tonight? If you're going to Kfar Chabad, and then you're coming back, and then you're going to do kaparas at some point. But yeshiva is basically ending this morning, this afternoon, this evening. The break begins. Obviously, the break doesn't begin as a break; it begins as the hard work of Yom Kippur. But it's we can. It's up to us how we experience that 25, 26 hours. We can experience it mitzad this sicha / mimer, or we can experience it mitzad the gashmias of it. That I'd like to be eating and I'd like to be laying down and I'd like to not be doing this. I mean, you make your own choice. But you think about it, it's probably reasonable to say maybe I'm just going to try to take advantage of this opportunity to the fullest extent. I'm going to have to remind myself of that now and then in the middle when your stomach. At 10 o'clock, your stomach is going to start to growl because it's going to what?
When it starts davening also.
Right, it also davens. It's going to start grumbling at 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock because it expects breakfast, right? At 10 o'clock, and it's going to start grumbling at about 2:30 because it expects lunch, and it'll grumble a little in between, if you're a big nasher in the middle. But I mean, there'll be times when you'll notice your stomach. Just tell it, shh, excuse me, please. I'm hanging out with Etzim today. You'll have tomorrow, tonight you'll get whatever you want. I'm gonna eat tonight. Don't worry, you'll be very happy. Right now, just be quiet. Leave me alone. Let me do my thing here. And your knees might say the same thing, and your back might say the same thing, and your head might say the same thing, making all this noise. Just shh, please, leave me alone. Right? I'm hanging out here with the Eibishter, and you'll get yours. Don't worry. It's not going to be Yom Kippur every day. Unfortunately, you're going to get lots of food, and you're going to get everything you want. So just, your feet probably won't be so freaked out about the shoes you're wearing because we have pretty comfortable non-leather shoes. So, you should use it. We should all use it successfully. There should be a chesima, gmar chesima teva for you, your families, everybody you know, everybody you love, everybody you don't love so much. They should also have a chesima, gmar chesima teva. And all the Yidden should get whatever the Yidden want, and what the Yidden really want is Mashiach to come. It should happen tekef umiyad. All these other things that you read about, okay, those seem fine, but that's really what a Jew wants. And it should happen tekef umiyad. L'chaim, l'chaim. So l'chaim on coffee, why not? And we will start up whenever we start up. Well, you guys start in the afternoon. I always get an extra day off. Mine says, starting Monday, 4 o'clock. Oh, good. Monday, I also get to sleep in. I don't have to get up early Monday. Should have a good gebenched yard.
But this was most likely my last.
This is it. Like we're getting to that final point.
I said it already 3 times.
I know.
This
That's
time
why
it seems to be.
I'm taking it not with a grain, maybe with a piece, not a grain of salt, maybe a bigger piece of salt, but I'm taking it still with a little salt. Why did you have a job after Yom Kippur?
Most likely, yeah. So,
Okay, help me up. I'll give you a hug. I'm going to see you around, though, right?
I'll be around for sure.
Yeah. You're such a special Jew. It's been such a pleasure seeing you in the morning.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And you should just have a lot of hatzlach in whatever you do. And we'll see you around. You're not going. The only problem is I don't see you guys so much because you usually show up on Shabbos.
Right.
And I'm not around.
Yeah.
So I lose. But it's too long a walk. I've done it a couple of times. It wipes me out. It's 40 minutes both way, 45 minutes.
Yeah, in the summer.
In the rain, in the summer it's really, really hot. In the winter it's rainy. So it's just, I came for something recently. Oh, the big the Shabbos where everybody, all the alumni came in. But Shabbos, so I walked in for lunch. That was nice.
I'm meeting with Daniel Toyander.
Oh yeah! Wow.
I'll send him the regards.
Please do. Best soccer player I ever saw. Ajax Juniors.
Yeah.
He played for Ajax Juniors. Who played with him? Do you know? I told you once.
You said.
Overmars. Fastest guy I ever saw in the soccer. He was so fast, that guy. He didn't necessarily do anything else as better than it, but he was faster than everybody. No one could keep up with the guy. I never saw anybody. I couldn't figure out how to somebody just zipped down there. I told you the story about my Dutch friend when I was watching soccer. He said, notice they're going left every time. Just like, that's when I realized something's going on. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
It's in our DNA, Rabbi.
Yeah, you guys,
I'm an exception.